Aloha, welcome friends to the Radiate Health and Wellness Podcast. So today I have an inspirational guest, Aneta Waclaw. She's a dedicated personal development author and writer. In today's conversation, she opens up in sharing about being in a relationship with a narcissist, seeing the red flags, getting out, and healing from the abuse. So, if you fear you or somebody that you love is in a toxic relationship, you won't want to miss this episode. Aloha! Welcome to the Radiate Health and Wellness Podcast, where we explore the vibrant world of health and well being. I'm your host, Christine D. Ross, a board certified health and wellness coach specializing in behavior change and nutrition, and author of Discover the Adventure of You and Health Beings. Join me as we uncover inspiring stories, practical tips, and transformative insights to assist you on your journey to radiate health and wellness. Aloha, Netta. Welcome to the Radiate Health and Wellness Podcast. I am so thrilled to have you with us today and be able to share your story.
Thank you so much for having me, Christine. I'm super excited and thank you for having me as a guest today.
You're so welcome. So, do you mind telling me just a little bit about yourself and your background?
Yeah, so I'm currently a writer and an author, and I write in the personal development field, but I'm from Chicago and now I'm living nomadically and writing.
Wow, that's pretty exciting. So, wow, I don't know where to start between the writing and the books. I have questions as far as your books. Let's start with where are you living? What does that mean, living nomadically?
Yeah, so I'm originally from Chicago, Illinois, and just a few months ago, I decided that I just wanted to change it up. So I moved to Mexico City, and back in Chicago, I was actually a hairstylist. And when I moved to Mexico, I started to write.
Wow. So, what was the big shift that made you move to Mexico City from Chicago? I mean, wow, that's quite the adventure.
Well, I mean, first things first is the weather because Chicago weather, it's just one of a kind. It's unpredictable, but we love it anyway, no matter what it is. But I feel like I was just kind of going through like some life transitions, and I was in a relationship back in Chicago when I was living there, and I just wanted to get away from everything for a little bit once I left the relationship and kind of focus on my healing. And I found more healing through my writing.
Wow. So to be able to just surrender from your past, and I can definitely relate to wanting to get out of the cold weather. So I read somewhere that your mission is to empower women to recognize their worth and pursue their aspirations. Is this part of what your work is that you've put into your books?
Yeah, absolutely. So, honestly, like I got it's my last relationship. It was maybe about like 3.5 years, and it was just like a lot of like life learning lessons, in my opinion, because I was very naive and I was just so very much so like in a bubble. And I was in like a narcissistic relationship. And I feel like if I was in one and I was very naive, then that means there's other women out there who are naive or still like in their bubble. So I decided to write a positive affirmations book and gratitude journal to help women overcome and to just be their best self, who they aspire to be.
Oh, so it sounds like you left your relationship and started your healing process in writing. So, in a way, you creating these journals and ways to write, it sounds like that's your way to assist these women to be able to heal and move forward. Is that right?
Yeah, because I'm a firm believer that you are what you tell yourself you are. And it all starts with that, honestly. Like when I was in the relationship, like I didn't have a good self image. I was constantly always either criticizing myself or I was getting criticized. So it's like those inner thoughts really make a difference. And once I learned to just like pick myself up and start telling myself positive affirmations every day, it really changed the trajectory of where I was going and what I wanted.
So it's the whole cognitive mind change. That's great. Yes. So were you able to make the shift on your own, or did you have assistance, some type of help or therapist or coach?
So I really honed into like a lot of like podcasts, a lot of self-help books. And something that really helped me as well was just like leaning into my faith and just building a stronger relationship with God. I know that's not like everybody sees it like that, but those are just my personal beliefs. And those three things just really helped push me out of my comfort zone and to know that there is better out there, but it all starts with what I'm going to tell myself and if I want it.
So with this narcissist, I have a hard time saying the word right, narcissistic relationship. So in this relationship, do you mind diving a little bit deeper and just sharing how long you were in it and some of the signs that you saw that this relationship was toxic?
When I first got into it, I was like about 20 years old. And I remember before I actually got into this relationship that I wanted to have a better self image of myself. I wanted to have more confidence. I wanted to be emotionally stable. And those are all the things that I wanted. But obviously, one I learned that when you want something, it doesn't get handed to you on a gold platter. It comes to you in the form of challenges and obstacles to see if you really want it. So once I like wrote down like those goals of being emotionally stable, loving myself more on a deeper level, came my way was this toxic relationship, and I saw the red flags, but I also had like a scarcity mindset. So some things that were going on, it's like he was like constantly criticizing me and saying like, "Oh, like why do you look like that?" or "Why did you say that?" or whatever. It was just like nitpicking little things. And like at first, like I would kind of get like offended. I'm like, "Why is he saying that? Or why is he acting like that?" But then I realized like it's actually an obstacle to see if I would stand up for myself and be who I want to be and who I truly desire.
Wow. So you bring up one of the red flags as being criticism. What were the
Yeah.
other red flags that you saw?
Manipulation. I something that I've also learned is that like I would like this is how much of like in a bubble I was. I never heard the word like emotionally unavailable until I left. So probably until I was like 23 years old. I never heard like the terms like love bombing or any of that. So it was also new to me. But he was definitely like love bombing in the beginning, and he would just like throw like
So,
his past traumas onto me as well.
so what's love bombing?
I feel love bombing is like when someone in the very beginning they like get like so attached and they're just like good morning every single day, fast responses. There's nothing wrong with fast responses, but if it's like a rush of what seems to be love, like good morning, good night, how are you, I love you, you're beautiful, all of that. And then it slowly starts to fade away as time goes instead of keeping it up.
So I'm just curious, like on your first date, did you see any of these signs?
No, I was so oblivious.
So looking back now, do you see any signs of being with a narcissist?
Yes. I feel like it was hard because like it was always like constant fight or flight mode. So it wasn't like, it's like if you're going to be with somebody, usually it's like a partnership, like 50-50, or like we work things out. But for us, it was always fight or flight mode. Like for me, it was just like, okay, I'm going to do this and you do that. Or he would try to like combat me on like things that I was doing or who I was hanging out with. Like he was trying to control who I hang out with, who I talk to, how, like everything. So it was just like very manipulative.
So it sounds like it was like playing a game. You're constantly in some type of competition trying to get that approval that never seemed to be quite good enough.
Yeah, that's honestly kind of how it was. And I was like reflecting back on it like not that long ago. And I just remember like I was a dancer once upon a time and I did like ballet dancing for like, excuse me, like 11 years. But it was so much criticism. And it was
Hmm.
like, I think I was okay with all the criticism in the beginning of the relationship because I was so used to it from ballet.
Wow, it's like I was a dancer myself and in ballet, and I can see that some teachers did come off where they would say something to me, and tears would just be welling up inside my head. I would just be doing everything I could to not let the waterworks go. But then other teachers were a lot more compassionate and had empathy and could just tell that what they were saying was done with love. So maybe you learned from the teacher the type that, I mean, can you relate to that? Were you the type that you just felt like you were just needing to cry inside after you felt that little bit of criticism?
All the time. It's just like, it's like your tights had to be perfect, your hair had to be in a perfect bun, like everything. You have to look the part, walk the part, and talk the part. And if you don't, you get criticized like you're in an audition room. And that
Yeah.
was what I was familiar to for like 11 years. So then when I got into this relationship, it's like things just seemed familiar.
Well, and then also with the competition with it of, I mean, you're always trying to get your leg just a little bit higher, as high as like the other person, or this person just did a perfect triple pirouette. And so now that's what you get to do. So that constant thriving, not being quite well enough, but seeing the perfection above you. And so is that tied into a little bit of always just trying to find that spot where you felt good enough for this relationship?
I feel like that also plays a part, like kind of like what you were saying. It's like just one more pirouette, just your leg up just a little bit higher for that one move. And I feel like that's also kind of like a people pleasing thing, in my opinion, because it's like you want to be the best. So then when it comes to like relationships after that, for me, I felt like I was constantly people pleasing. And that's also a
Mm,
toxic trait, though, too.
yes. So, how long were you in this relationship?
About 3 to 3.5 years.
So, within that 3.5 years, were there times where you broke up and, split apart for a little bit, then you came back? And was there that dance going on?
No, it actually wasn't. We would just argue a lot and like be on two different pages a lot. But I think just like some of like the biggest lessons that I've learned from it, like the situations were not ideal, but I also wouldn't change them for the world because they have shaped me to who I am now. But when I was 20, we started dating, and then at 21, we got married. And then at 23, like I ended up filing for divorce. I was like, this is just way too much because it was just like he was comfortable, I was comfortable, and I was like, we just need to get out of this situation and grow for ourselves.
Wow, well, that's very powerful and strong that you were able to see that and move past it because so many people, especially after they're married, stay true to that commitment. And then after having children, raise them, letting them go, 20 years after, they're finally realizing that what they want in a constant companion, that relationship isn't there. So, yeah, it's very courageous of you to be able to do that. So you've pinned out the things that don't work in the relationship as far as just feeling like you're being controlled, just judged, maybe. What are some other things that you can pinpoint that you felt that was not working?
Honestly, I think that there was just like a lot of like back and forth. Like if I wanted to do something, he would always just like come back at me and be like, no, like we always do what you want. Like, why do we always have to do what you want? It's like, it's not even like that. Or him trying to control who I'm hanging out with. Like, I mean, I had no friends when we were together because I think, like, also what a narcissist would do is try to isolate you so then you believe what they say. And it doesn't matter if you've been in a narcissistic relationship for 2 weeks, 2 months, or 2 years. Any moment with them can take a toll on you really fast and things can get dark fast.
Wow. So, just kind of looking in, doing my little bit of research, what I found is some of the red signs to look for, and possibly just on the first date or so, is if they pick you up on the date, which probably isn't the best idea to go on unless you really know the person to begin with, to get in a car with some stranger. But if they're just this crazy driver, road rage and stuff, that's a big sign. That's a clue. And then just sitting down for the dinner, and if how do they treat the server or the hostess? I mean, are they snappy? Are they controlling? Do they have gratitude, patience? And then one of the other signs was, as you're saying goodbye, if the partner wants you to, spend a little bit more time, and you're saying, do you know what? I've got a tough day tomorrow. I can't, but hey, let's get together next week. And if they get really upset about that you don't want to spend more time with them and continue the date even longer, then that's another huge sign. So, did you see any of that when you first started dating?
Yeah, actually, I did. When it came to like at a restaurant, like he was like always like nice to the servers, but at the same time, when it was came time to driving, there was a lot of road rage, and I was honestly scared to just drive with him because like he would always want to drive fast or like race other people on the highway. And I'm like, dude, just stay in one lane, you know? But yeah, it was scary too. So I feel like there was just like a lot, like they create a lot of scarcity, and I think that's what also makes it hard to leave is because you're just like, what are they gonna do? How are they gonna react? What's next? You don't know because they're unpredictable.
So, how did other people, like your family, your close friends, did they see any signs before you, or was he a different person in front of them?
Completely different. Completely different. Like, it's we go to a party or we go hang out with somebody or my family. It's like the nicest person ever. Like literally would only open the door, like car door for me in front of people. But the second we get in the car and the second we get home, it's just like help.
Wow, wow, yeah. Big sign there.
Yeah, and
So,
it's
I've
just
heard
like
that
sorry, go ahead.
there is like people pleasing narcissists that I mean, for like a woman, for example, they're the ones that are the best soccer moms, part of the PTA, show up for every little class thing, make the cookies for the bake sale. They're like everything. But then at home behind closed doors, they're the ones that's just going, ah, and their whole life is just like screaming and yelling. And it's like they just keep everything so perfect on the outside. But then as soon as behind closed doors, they are just falling apart and screaming and angry. And did you experience anything like that?
That's honestly that's how it felt. It was like we were constantly arguing, and there just like came to like a point where I was just never sober because I it was so much. Like I at the time I don't anymore, but I honestly had once I left, like I felt fine. Like I felt like 10 pounds just fell off my shoulders. Like I used to smoke a lot of weed, and that was the way that I was able to just sit there and talk to him or just be around him because I couldn't do it sober. Like one, it's like the driving with the road rage was too much. Um, excuse me. The people pleasing in front of people was just like so fake, you know. And it's like he would be like, well, we have to look perfect in front of everybody. But how, but it's not like that behind closed doors. So why can't you just show them who you really are? You know?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot to like like just to process sometimes.
It is. So, what was communications even like? What were your conversations about? Were they deep at all? Did he ever show you empathy?
Oh, never. Like, I mean, like if I was upset about something, he'd be like, um, I'd be like, hey, like this hurt my feelings. Like, can you maybe apologize for it? Like, and he'd be like, I'll tell you sorry when you deserve it. I'm like, oh, okay. And like, it was just always like that. And I'd be like, oh, like, do you want to go do X, Y, Z? He'd be like, we can do that, but you don't deserve it. So figure it out. I'm
So,
like,
it was
oh,
always a game, always
always,
playing the game, not
always.
ever really real. So, you bring up saying sorry. So, that brings me to, forgiveness.
Yeah,
Have you been able to forgive him for who he has showing up in your life?
I have. And honestly, after I left, I once I moved out because we were living together. I moved out, and I think like a few months later, like I texted him. I was like, "Listen, like I'm not mad at you. I'm not upset on you. We can't say we didn't try, but at the same time, I forgive you, and I wish you the best because something that I really learned is that if somebody is having a good day, they're going to portray good emotions and make someone else feel good. But if someone is not having a good day, then sometimes they portray those emotions onto people. So everything he was putting me through, it was just who he was. And that's when you learn to have grace and you just say a prayer and move on and wish him the best.
Wow. Well, that's huge that you were able to really forgive him and move on. And with that, what lessons did you learn from that relationship that you can move forward and create more loving, true relationships in the future?
Yeah, it's honestly a lot of unlearning a lot of things. Like I've talked with like friends who were in like similar like relationships, and when they get into like a healthy relationship after, they're like it's kind of boring, and it's like I mean it's just because you have to unlearn what was normal to you once upon a time is not normal to other people. And it's just like learning to be patient with others and normalize. Like, love bombing is not a normal thing because it starts a lot in the beginning and it's eventually going to decrease. Wouldn't you rather want something that's going to be slow and steady throughout and have it grow that way? So I'm just unlearning a lot of old habits and learning a lot of new habits for healthier relationships.
So you say slow and steady. What does that mean to you?
It means like personally, it's like not jumping too fast, not taking one step at a time, because like my ex and I, like it was so fast. I couldn't even process anything. It was like we start dating. 2 months later, we're living together. I don't know, maybe 10 months later, we're engaged. Maybe 5 months after that. These are just roughly numbers, but it was fairly quick. About maybe 5 months being engaged, and then we get married. And then we're married for about a year and a half, and then we file for divorce. Like it was so quick. I would rather just take it one step at a time and really get to know somebody before going that.
That's smart, very smart to go slow. I like that. So you've definitely have experienced what a toxic relationship is. What can you look forward to? What is a healthy, loving relationship?
In my opinion, like a healthy and loving relationship is two people who work on themselves. They have their own lives, and when they make time for each other, they come together and they just enjoy. It's not like, oh, I'm just going to go to this person and complain, or, oh, I'm just going to go to this person and just jump my day on them because if someone didn't have a good day. It's just like two like emotionally stable people who continuously work on themselves in the personal development route, their careers, their whatever's around them. And then they come together and just spend time and actually enjoy.
So, two people that are really 100% themselves have their own wholeness to come together and complete each other that way.
Exactly.
Beautiful. Love how you said that. So, one of my questions that I do ask is what does it mean to radiate health and wellness? So, in radiating health and wellness, how does learning about being in healthy relationships and what does that mean to you?
I think it means that you should start by one, self care for yourself, love yourself because you spend the most time with yourself than anybody. So you might as well be kind to yourself and just really keep working on yourself, keep working on your goals, and hang around with people who have what you want. Because if you hang around with people who don't have what you want, then you're not going to eventually see better ways. You're not going to see better paths. And that's just what how I see it. It's I want to hang around with people who have what I want. And if I see a healthy relationship from the inside out, then I want to hang around those people as well and see what they're doing and how they handle situations. Nobody said you're not going to have problems, but there are healthy ways to go about it.
Right. I mean, what would this world be like without any problems? We'd all just be on clouds playing harps and in complete bliss. And what's the fun of that? No games. um, as far as leaving a toxic relationship, do you have any, like, if somebody out there is seeing the characteristics, seeing the red flags, how did you leave? And do you have any like messages on how to leave that relationship?
For me, it took about 3 months to leave. So it wasn't right away. And I really had to plan it out because I was actually really fearful of him. And part of the reason why I didn't want to leave sooner than I did is because I was scared. Like, he knows where my family lives, like, he knows everything, from my childhood home to the where my parents moved to eventually. Like, he knew all of that. And I just wanted to do it safely and smoothly. So I would suggest and recommend is reach out for help, even if it feels a little embarrassing in the moment. People need to know, at least somebody has to know what you're going through. Doesn't have to be everything, but nobody knew what I was going through internally. I had no friends. I couldn't tell my family because I just felt so isolated and I felt embarrassed to go to them because also it's like I didn't want my parents to know that I was having issues with my marriage. My parents have a great marriage and I looked up to them for it. And I just didn't want them to have to worry about me. So reach out to somebody you trust and let them know and figure out a game plan, an exit strategy, how to get out smoothly and safely.
So, were you able to find somebody that you trusted to reach out to?
Like last minute, I eventually just called my mom. It was just like 2 in the morning, and we were arguing and whatnot. And I called my mom. I was like, "Mom, I just can't do this anymore." And she was like, "Okay, Aneta, come home." And then the next day, I packed my suitcase and I went home, and then I moved out 2 days later.
Wow. So just trying to step into your shoes, I can see you were in a place of fearing like some type of judgments, like you were doing something wrong. You didn't have this healthy relationship. And to be able to call your mom just took a tremendous amount of courage to just be raw and vulnerable, and in a way of admitting a failure, even though it should not be seen that way. There's much healthier ways of seeing that, but I can see how in that moment of really feeling like a failure. But in your experience, your mom just sounds like she just opened up her heart and just opened up her wing and brought you in. For anybody out there just feeling like it's so hard to share with your parent or somebody because of just that fear of judgment or feeling like you failed, what can you say to them?
Something that I learned is that you should be proud of yourself for those tough times because you're overqualified for them and you are able to overcome them, because I'm a firm believer that you won't be given anything that you can't handle. And whether it's a narcissistic relationship, a toxic work environment, whatever it is, those challenges are there to shape you and to grow you into the person you want to be. So don't ever look at your challenges as failures. I've learned that failure is the first attempt in learning. So be open and communicate with somebody, because you'll be happier and you'll get to a better place faster if you just open up and reach out for help.
So, just going back to the word failure, I'm seeing the only way that you could really fail in that relationship is to stay in it.
Because you're sacrificing your self worth, you're sacrificing everything, your job, your career, everything. Like we lived in like right outside of Chicago, so maybe like a 20-minute drive depending on traffic, and I hated living there. I didn't even want to live there. I wanted to live in the city. And I remember like we went for a bike ride one day and I was like, I stopped in front of this one building and I was like, oh my God, like I want to live there. Do you think we can look at maybe some apartments when our lease is over? And I just remember he like laughed and he was like, yeah, haha, whatever. But it's like, I don't need that. So I wasn't going to sacrifice living somewhere I didn't want to live, hang around people I didn't want to hang around. My friends lived in the suburbs, so they were maybe an hour away and we were by all of his friends and they were great for him, but for me, we weren't for each other to be friends.
So, did you see that in other ways that he didn't support your desires, whether it be from a job or another friendship or just some hobby or activity you wanted to do?
Yeah, it's just like no matter what I did, it was never enough. Like, I mean, you can live in like the 50th floor in a high rise in Chicago and have room service and have a cleaning lady come every single day and whatever, but it would still never be enough. So, like, whatever I did, it was never enough.
Wow. So, if you could just go back and write a letter to your young self, whether it's like 10, 12-year-old self, some message, what would you tell yourself?
I would tell myself that you are capable and you are worthy of greater things. And just because you're in a small season of preparation, because that's what I call the challenges and the obstacles now, it's a season of preparation for the things that you've asked for. And you are worthy of it. And don't settle until you get what you want, because some challenges and obstacles may seem big, but you are worthy and you are worthy of getting living your dream life. Don't settle.
Powerful, powerful message out there. Love it. So, is there any other messages that you would want to share with anybody out there that's maybe going through the same type of situation and being in a toxic relationship? Do you have any other messages that you would like to share that you haven't opened up about today?
I would say something that piece of advice that I could give is that it's okay to take the road less traveled. Once I left the relationship, I felt like I went through like a period where I really needed to focus on myself and heal the wounds from the past. And I had a lot of friends who would always say, like, they're scared to be alone. And don't ever feel like you're alone, because if you can call at least one person any time of the day, then you're not alone. But taking the road less traveled for a short period of time will set you up for some of the greatest comebacks despite the setbacks that you were in.
Wow. So, I mean, now you've moved past all of this. You've stood up. You've taken that road less traveled. You've gone from Chicago to New Mexico City and written a couple books. So, tell us, what is your life like now?
You know, this kind of also goes back to preparation. Like the obstacles are preparation for what you wanted. People will look at, like, I'll tell people, like, yeah, like I live in Mexico. And they're like, oh my God, like that's so cool. Like, I would love to live in Mexico. And it's great. I love it. But I wanted to live in another country at least 4 years ago. So don't overlook the season of preparation. And I've always wanted to do something in an impactful way. And so I live in Mexico and I write books and I help other women overcome from narcissistic relationships, because there's more out there than we think and that we hear of, and people need to know that it's going to be okay.
So, what are the names of your books?
My first one is Blooming with Self Love.
Blooming with Self Love.
Yes.
Okay. And what's the main theme on Blooming with Self Love?
So that one, it's a positive affirmations book and it has like a gratitude journaling in there as well. And right now I'm working on creating like a course that talks about healing your inner trauma, like your inner child trauma or from past relationships, to become your best self.
Right. And what about your second book?
So that one, I'm still currently working on it, but it's called The Power of Pause, because I think that coming from America to Mexico, the lifestyle is different. In America, it's always on the go, like go, 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 go. And then I come here to Mexico and people take their time. And that's also something that I've learned is like us as humans, despite what we grow through, we need to take time to pause, heal, and then move forward. So that's the second book that I'm working on.
Ah, that's awesome. I can totally relate to what you're saying. I didn't leave the country, but I did pretty much as close as you can in moving to Hawaii, where I mean, there's people make fun of Hawaii time, but it's real. Things really do just move at a slower pace, and you get to leave that mainland mindset in the mainland. It doesn't quite work here, and people that try to live with that just rat race mindset, somehow the island seems to unwelcome them and they end up leaving.
Yeah.
So I get that, and definitely honor and respect to be able to pause, like you say, and just it's just relax and just breathe. And you know what? If just this littlest things, if there's dirty dishes in the sink overnight, it's okay. They'll be there tomorrow. And the same thing with just driving of, you know, why have the road rage and try to get everywhere quickest and fastest and get everything done? I mean, man, just fast food itself and what that has done to the health of our country. To just be able to, you know what, I'll survive. I'll get there when I get there. just because I have some driver in front of me that I don't know what he's taken. I'll get there. It's okay.
Yeah,
So,
I
yeah. So why
totally.
Mexico City?
I heard the tacos were good. To be
The
honest, that's
tacos were good.
yeah, and they're really good. I'd recommend.
Wow. Well, I'm a foodie. I love food. So, what is the big difference of real Mexican tacos versus, I mean, we can't even say Taco Bell or, okay, maybe I
No,
shouldn't say those
no.
words, but the regular fast food tacos. What does Mexico City have in their tacos that America doesn't?
I think it's like the tacos mixed with the culture. Like everybody is so kind. They're so not like welcoming, and the fact that they make good food on top of that, like everywhere you go, there's a taco stand, and it's just like, okay, it's just like I'll go for like a 20-minute walk, and then I'm like, okay, that taco stand looks good. Maybe one.
Sounds great. Is there any more spice?
Yeah, it's definitely more spicy. So, but
Yeah.
you get used to it. You start with like a little bit, and then after a couple months, you add more, and then a couple more months, you'll just add a whole scoop. It's good.
I love spice. Yeah. Can be too overpowering once in a while, though. So, just wrapping things up, Aneta, how can people contact you or get a hold of your book?
Yeah, so Instagram would be the best way through Aneta.wanders, and my book is available on Amazon as well.
Okay, perfect. And what was the name of it again?
Blooming with Self Love.
Blooming with Self Love by Aneta. And you say your last name, Waclaw?
Yes.
All right. Well, I had the learning experience of it's not Anita, it's Aneta. So, all right. Well, Aneta, thank you so much for coming on today and sharing your story. So it's been just a pleasure being able to get to know you and be able to spread your word out into the world, to be able to assist others in seeing toxic relationships, getting out of it, and healing themselves. So thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Mahalo for joining this inspiring conversation with Aneta Waclaw. If you know someone who might be in a toxic relationship, please share this episode with them. Your courageous act of sharing might awaken them to realize the unhealthy relationship they are in and empower them to make the first steps in getting out. Also, please follow and subscribe to stay updated on the latest episodes. You can also check out my website, radiatehealthandwellness.com, for more resources, recipes, blog posts, and information on my health and wellness coaching. And you can also contact me at radiate.hw@gmail.com. So mahalo for tuning in today. Until next time, take care of your well-being and radiate health and wellness in all that you are.